Welcome to the 12th Horseshoe Podcast, sponsored by Prova, an Italian eatery of Moonachie, New Jersey. This is the Week 11 recap. Jack Rizzo, Elijah Weintraub joining you here. And what a crazy Week 11 it was. And we're so glad you can join us right here on the 12th Horseshoe Podcast YouTube channel and on Surge Sports. Jack, how are we doing tonight?
Doing pretty good, Eli. Ready to get right into our recap.
All right, the bye week teams this week were the Cardinals, Giants, Panthers, and Buccaneers. Jack went 13-1 this week and 2-1 on LSU. I went 9-5 and 1-2 on LSU. The only game that Jack got wrong was the Seahawks.
We'll get to that in a little bit. That was some game, wasn't it?
It was a great game. We'll get to that in just a little bit. We talked about the Commanders. We talked about the Eagles game. Crazy endings and finishing there. We're going to first start off with this, and I think we're going to go quick and short and sweet and get to the point here. Lions over the Jaguars, 52-6. Yep, 52 points on the board. Unbelievable. And Jack had the survivor pick right, and that was 52 points put up by the Lions. Not much more I could say there.
Yeah, I was waiting to save my Lions pick, and this was the perfect week to use it, and I'm glad I did. Now, Eli, as of the time we're live here, I am shocked that Doug Peterson has not been fired yet from being the Jaguars head coach. I mean, after a loss like that and with how disappointing of a year they've had, you think he'd be gone. But I don't really know how much time he has left. But, yeah, Eli, the Lions just keep rolling, and we'll see how they play the rest of the season. They have a couple of tough games coming up later on in the season, but they look like the best team in the league right now. Do you agree with me on that one?
I do have to agree with that one. I mean, there's no question about it. But, again, this was a slightly easy matchup. We'll see when it comes time to play teams like the Chiefs, the Bills. We're going to see that big test later on, though. Only thing to recap this week, 2 words. Bo Nix, absolute stud. Thanks, Kurt Valenti, for the comment. Catch Jack and him on All High School Sports tonight with Jen Valenti as well. We'll talk more about Denver Broncos and Bo Nix in just a little bit. A lot to talk about there. But the next game we're going to go to is the Dolphins, who defeated the Raiders 34-19. A very high intense game. Dolphins are still in it. More than likely won't win the division, but they're going to try to potentially get a wild card spot here for the Raiders. Should have been a win and did not have a good performance right there.
Yeah, Eli, don't count the Miami Dolphins out. They have one of the easiest schedules remaining in the league. At 4-6, they're only a game and a half out of the final AFC wildcard spot. So there's still plenty of time for them to make up some ground here in the AFC wildcard race. As for the Raiders, Eli, they're probably going to be eliminated from the playoffs in the next few weeks. It's been a really disappointing season for them. Not really much pauses outside of Max Crosby and Brock Bowers really over there in Las Vegas. But, hey, Eli, don't count out the Dolphins. Maybe they could be a playoff team here as we get to the final few weeks. So we have a couple more comments from Kurt. Belichick to Jags next year. He has his QB in Lawrence, built the defense and ready to go. I can't see that, Eli. I think it's too small of a market for him to go to. I know Jacksonville's warm and sunny, but it just feels like too small of a market to really be going to. And thoughts on Daniel Jones getting benched? Well, we should talk about this now, Eli, since the Giants were on a bye week this week. So
Daniel Jones does get benched for Tommy Cutlets. That's right, Tommy Cutlets. Do I like this move? No, I personally don't. There's my reason why. Listen, I do think Daniel Jones was about time for him to get benched, but they do have Drew Lock, who I think is the better quarterback over Tommy Cutlets. So I think this was a wrong move by the Giants, but we'll see. And I think this was too late of a decision to announce it now. You know, maybe last week if we heard about it, maybe, okay, we could say, okay, well, he has 2 weeks to prep. It's good. But they announced it on Monday. Today's Tuesday. They play on Sunday. I just think that was just too short of a notice, and I don't think the Giants are still going to come up on top with the victory here with the Buccaneers.
Well,
interesting decision there.
Well, Eli, if you're wondering why the Giants chose Tommy DeVito over Drew Lock, Brian Dable actually answered this pretty well a couple days ago when Daniel Jones was benched. Drew Lock was injured for much of the preseason, so we did not really see much action from him in the Giants' new system. And since Tommy DeVito was with the Giants last year as well, he has more familiarity. And Tommy DeVito played well last year in the games that they needed him to play. Now, Eli, something else about the Giants is that apparently, from what sources have been saying over the news outlets, that Brian Dable will likely be coaching for his job over these final 7 games. So something to keep an eye out there for the Giants.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we're going to get into the next game now. We talked about the Dolphins. We talked about the Raiders. Let's go to the Bears. They lose to Packers 20-19 off of a field goal kick. One an ending, but Are we going to say that the Packers are for real, though? Because they keep putting these games very close and down to the wire. Are they the for real team? That's the big question to know.
Well, Eli, I'll tell you, I saw a really funny thing on X last week. There were after the Chiefs blocked the field goal to beat the Broncos. A Bears fan said on Twitter, "If this happens to us against the Packers next week, I am leaving this app." And what do you know? 1 week later, the
He
Packers
leaves
block a
the
field
app.
goal. The Packers block a field goal as time expires to get the win over the Bears. The Packers now have won 11 straight games against the Chicago Bears. They just own them, Eli. It's really that simple. I do agree with you though,
Wow.
Eli. I don't know if the Packers are for real. I was really high on them. I had them in the Super Bowl. That's how high I was on them. I thought Jordan Love was going to play better. Maybe Jordan Love is playing hurt. He did have that groin injury, and he had a knee injury earlier in the season. So maybe he's not fully 100% right now, Eli. But yeah, you said it though, Eli. Really, ever since that Week 7 win over Houston, the Packers have just not looked very good. Now the good thing, Eli, is that they're 7-3, and there's plenty of time to get things right. But the next 2 games, they have San Francisco this week, and then the week after they have Miami, and then they have Detroit, and then Seattle on the road in Week 15. So Packers are going to really get tested these next couple weeks, Eli, and I'm really interested to see what happens. As for the Bears, not really much to say, Eli. They just are really struggling right now. I don't really know how much more time Matty Eberflus has as their coach.
All right, the next game on the list we're going to talk about, Browns lose to the Saints 35-14. Big win for the Saints there. And are the Saints coming back? Are they going to really be fighting for a division win? Because that division is wide open right now between the Panthers. If they can continue to win games, they could win the division. Is that crazy to say?
It's not crazy to say, in all honesty.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, hey, how about Taysom Hill in this game? He had an unbelievable game, had 3 touchdowns. He did a great job out there. And Dustin Hopkins missed there were so many missed field goals that were really easy kicks this week. It was shocking. But yeah, Eli, the Browns, oh my goodness, they're just a disaster this year, Eli. They had 6 losses all of last year. They have 8 losses in their first 10 games this year. I think that just shows how much they have collapsed. Yeah, but you're not wrong about the Saints maybe being a contender here, Eli. I will say that we'll get the Bucs are on a bye week this week, so I'll talk about them now. The Bucs have the easiest schedule remaining in the NFL. Like, I looked at Tampa Bay's schedule, the final 7 weeks, I guess it is. Oh my goodness, they have like no games that they really should lose. They've really played all their tough opponents already, and getting Mike Evans back, I feel like Tampa Bay could come here and win the division, but it's wide open. Like, all 4 of these teams could be the winners in the division. We'll just have to see how it plays out.
All right. Next one on the list. Good points there, Jack. And the Ravens lose to Steelers in a close one, 18-16 in final. Wow, what a crazy game that is. And the Steelers proven to be this best team right now. And they'll be fighting those 2 teams for first place in that division. Pretty crazy to say indeed. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, Eli, Lamar Jackson still cannot figure out the Steelers' defense. That's been the story for him really his entire career. The Steelers have really just owned the Ravens. The Ravens have just 1 win against the Pittsburgh Steelers since 2020. It's just been a complete domination, Eli. This defense playing like the best in the league. Offense in a bit of a down game, but when you have TJ Watt out there and Chris Boswell making 6 field goals for the second time this season, your offense can be average and you can still win games. That's what the Steelers have done, Eli. Mike Tomlin's just an amazing head coach, and the Steelers look like they're well on their way to a playoff appearance here.
Yep, absolutely, indeed. And we'll be seeing probably both these teams in the playoffs. Just a matter of who gets first place. That's the ultimate question. And how many more wins can they get the rest of the season and way?
This was a big win for this. Oh, I'm sorry, Eli. I was just going to say this is a big win for the Steelers to give them the tiebreaker over the Ravens for now in the division standings. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
No problem, no worries. Next game on the list will be the Vikings over the Titans, 23-13. Big crazy game that was, but the Vikings are on top once again, and they're going to be competing for sure with Detroit. But it looks like Detroit's going to be the front runner in that division for sure. But it could be anybody's game still.
I'm not exactly sure about that. I don't really know if the Vikings are for real either. Like I know they're winning, but the last few weeks have been really tough. Like they struggled against the Colts a couple weeks ago. They barely beat Jacksonville at home against the backup QB, and then I know they beat Tennessee by 10, but really like the offense completely stalled out in the second half. And I'll give credit to the Vikings defense. The Vikings defense was outstanding once again, Eli, but the Vikings need to show they can compete with better teams. Because right now they're not really playing well against some pretty subpar opponents, Eli. I think next week will be an interesting challenge. You're going up against the Bears, a division opponent. So I feel like we're going to see what the Vikings are made of next week, Eli. And then they have Arizona the week after. So I'm interested. As for Tennessee, well, their season's basically over at this point. We'll just have to see how Will Levis is the final few weeks of the season.
All right, next game on the list. Rams beat the Patriots 2022. Why was it this close? Are the Rams for real? And the question is Seattle and Arizona the for real teams to win first place in the division? Or will we have a battle between all four teams for the West? That's the big question. But what are your thoughts overall on this game, though?
It's a battle in the West, Eli. You call that all four teams are within one game of the division. It's going to be so close to the end. Eli, this was actually quietly one of the better games of Week 11. It was a really good back-and-forth game. Yeah, Drake May had some really good moments. Matthew Stafford, though, Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, they all came through, Eli. This was a must-win for the Rams, and they got the win. It's going to be a battle to the end, Eli. There's still a lot of division games that have to happen. Seattle still has to play Arizona twice. Niners still have to play the Rams later in the season. The Rams and the Seahawks have to play again. There are going to be so many great games for Eli to close out the season. I have no who's going to win this division, Eli, and it's definitely possible that we have multiple teams from this division end up in the postseason. It's going to be a great battle, Eli. 4 really evenly matched teams.
You know, you mentioned that, and I think you're absolutely right, because if you look at it, in the east of the NFC, you have the Commanders and you have the Eagles. You cannot count Dallas, and you cannot count the Giants.
I think the Commanders and the Eagles will both be in for sure.
Both be in for sure, and I think you'll definitely still get that one team from the south of the for the NFC.
But only one.
I think only one. Despite them really cutting in close, I think we're only going to see one team. We're going to definitely see maybe 2 or 3 from the West.
No, I think so.
2 or 3 from the West or the North. That's potential too.
So Eli, here's what I think. I think it's very possible you could see 3 teams from the North make it, because again, you have the Lions who are 8-1 or 9-1 now. You have Minnesota at 7-2, I believe.
Yep.
No, 8-2, not 7-2, 8-2. And then you have Green Bay at 7-3. So one of them could definitely fall off, Eli, but they are all in great position right now. So it really could be, Eli, only one team from the West. It could be 2. It definitely could be 2. Maybe one of the teams from the North falls off. Maybe the Commanders with a tougher schedule don't win as many games, but it's going to be close. Eli. The NFC is, I would say, definitely the better conference in the NFL this season.
Right now.
Which is great, because the AFC has been the better one the last couple of years. So it's great to see the NFC be more competitive this year.
The question is, awesome. Do they win the Super Bowl? That's the question. Although they're good now, do they win the Super Bowl? We'll find out with that in just a little bit later on.
That is the question to answer. Funny enough, though, I just saw this. Going back to 2016, when the AFC has won the Super Bowl, it's either been the Chiefs or the Patriots. Nobody else. Those are the only 2 AFC teams that have won since 2016. And then the NFC, it's all different teams, basically.
Absolutely. The next game on the list we're going to talk about, the game I was surprised he didn't go to, Colts over the Jets, 28-27, and you're the big Colts fan, and Jets fired the general manager today, Joe Douglas. And
not the problem.
Again, not the problem. I think it's all Aaron Rodgers. That's my opinion. I said it from day one. Why do you think Robert Saleh got fired? Why do you think he got fired? It is 100% the coach, not the coach, Aaron Rodgers. But we'll see about that after their bye week. Remember, the Jets have a bye week next week. But Jack, what are your thoughts on this big and very important win for the Colts?
Yeah, Eli, I mean, I'm honestly glad I didn't go, because to be honest, if we went, I think the game would have been different. I just have that feeling in my mind. But Anthony Richardson really balled out on Sunday. Eli. This was the best game of his career. 20 of 30, almost 300 yards, touchdown. He had 2 rushing scores. Led the Colts on multiple great drives in the fourth quarter. And the Colts defense really came to play, especially in the first half. A little bit more rusty in the second half, Eli. But it was a great win for the Colts, Eli. Again, as I've said, I don't really care if the Colts make the playoffs this year. I just want to see Anthony Richardson actually develop and be our true franchise guy. As for the Jets, Eli, I really don't have words. I don't think Joe Douglas is the problem. I mean, Joe Douglas drafted Garrett Wilson. He drafted Breece Hall. He drafted many other great talents at Jets had. He drafted Michael Carter, drafted Will McDonald. He drafted so many great players in the draft, Eli. He really did. I just don't really understand this move, Eli, to be honest. It's Rodgers, and I'm not going to put politics in this, Eli, but you might not know this, but the Jets owner, Woody Johnson, was one of the U.S. ambassadors during Donald Trump's first administration, because so his brother, I believe it was, had to take over ownership. So I'm sure Jets fans are hoping that he is an ambassador again, and they have to sell the team so that he doesn't own them anymore. So that's just what I think. But yeah, I don't think the Jets are going anywhere until Woody Johnson sells team and Aaron Rodgers is gone, and then they start from scratch again.
I think they're going to have no choice and start from scratch. It's the bottom line here.
Oh, absolutely.
Broncos. How about them Broncos? They defeat the Falcons 38-6 in a big win. Kurt's happy for sure. But the question is, what is wrong with the Falcons? Because they were this team that was really good, and all of a sudden it's like, what just happened here?
Well, Eli, the Falcons lost. They got blown out, but you might be surprised I'm going to say this. I am not surprised that the Falcons lost like this because, to be honest, the Falcons have been I don't think they're for real. They had been really
wishy-washy?
Yeah, exactly. That's the word. Wishy-washy the first 10 weeks. I didn't really think they were that great of a team, to be honest. And it just showed on Sunday just how behind they are and how well the Broncos were. And how about Bo Nix with the 4 touchdowns, 400 passing yards? Since the first quarter of the season, Bo Nix has been one of the best QBs in the league. Are we sure Jaden Daniels is Rookie of the Year in the NFL this year? It might actually be Bo Nix. It might actually be Bo Nix when you look at the numbers. Because Jaden Daniels, his touchdown numbers are actually low. So maybe
I think it's going to determine if they make it to the playoffs. If the Broncos miss the playoffs, I won't even consider him as a candidate. And I don't mean that, great if he did regular season, but did he bring his team to the postseason?
Well, the one thing
that's how I look at it. If you can make it to the postseason, I can consider you for a top nominee. If you can't make it to the postseason, I can't consider you. Bottom line.
That's a fair point, Eli. But at the same time, we're talking about a Rookie of the Year. It's not really about playoffs, just about who performs the best. MVP is playoffs usually, almost always. But I mean, you go back to 2018, Saquon Barkley won Rookie of the Year. The Giants went 5-11 that year. We've had other Rookies of the Year. Garrett Wilson won Offensive Rookie of the Year 2 years ago. The Jets were 7-10. I really don't think it comes down to making the playoffs. It's not like other awards. So I think even if Denver doesn't make it, if Bo Nix continues to play the way he does, I think you certainly have to consider him. It doesn't mean he's going to win it, but Bo Nix is absolutely in the conversation right now. That's just how I look at it, Eli. But
100%.
let's go ahead and move on to the next game. I know you're excited to talk about this one.
I'm super excited. I don't know how. Geno Smith, the quarterback, which I denied a lot. I didn't even think would be possible that they would win this game. They win 20-17. I can't believe it. I really can't. I'm still shocked. And what this game just showed is that they're still in the running to win this division. And they're still in the running to win the playoffs. It's crazy to say. I can't believe it myself. I'm so proud of it. And, I'm pumped that they won. And next week's game, which will be against the Cardinals, is going to be pretty huge.
It's going to determine first place. That's how big it is. Now, Eli, first off, congratulations. Great win. But I was shocked how harsh you were on Seattle. I mean, you had San Francisco as your lock week. Now, I did as well, but you had your own team losing by 16, which I thought was pretty surprising, considering that I think Seattle's actually has been pretty wishy-washy this year. They look great one week and then bad the next week. But hey, the Seattle defense is really good. Mike McDonald is a great head coach. And Geno Smith proved a lot of haters wrong, man. He really did. And I don't know what's going on with San Francisco this year. I don't know if they're really missing Brandon Ayuk that much, or I guess they didn't have George Kittle. Maybe they really missed his run blocking, but they just have not looked good this year. I don't know what it is. I mean, this is probably the most talented roster in the NFL top to bottom, and they're just not performing up to standards right now. And I think that falls really on the coaching staff more so than anything. So we'll have to see how the season plays out, Eli. But this is a great win for the Seahawks, Eli. A season-saving win. I think if Seattle would have lost the game, Eli, they would have been out of the playoffs. But now, 100%. With this win, all of a sudden, things are completely different now.
All right. The Chiefs lose to the Bills. Can you believe that? They get the first loss of the season. They lose to the Bills 30-21. What a game. I thought the Bills lost it as soon as they missed a kick because, that's just how the Buffalo luck goes. But no, they won the game. Pretty impressive and a big win for the Buffalo Bills nonetheless.
How about that 4th and 2 call? 2.5 minutes left. Eli, you would agree with me here, right? So Buffalo's up by 2 with 2.5 minutes left. It was 4th down. If they kick the field goal, Kansas City goes down the field and wins the game, right? You would agree with me there?
I 100% agree.
Okay, so I was so happy when I saw they were lining up to go for it. I'm like, they are going for the win. They're not going to let the Chiefs get the football back, and that's exactly what they did. Josh Allen was a great play call, scored the touchdown. Man, Josh Allen's probably the MVP this season. He probably is. Yeah. Who else do you think, Eli? I'm just curious. Who else do you think? I'm curious. I want to hear your opinion.
You could consider Josh Allen 100% for sure.
Is there anybody else though that's playing well for you? Is it maybe not a quarterback? Like, what do you think? Do you think like Derrick Henry or Saquon Barkley could be MVP?
Saquon for sure for the Philadelphia Eagles side, potentially. And the Jig Bump really did good. I mean, I can't,
Who did?
The Jig Bump? Seahawks.
He's not. Okay, Eli. I really do like JSN, but there's no possible.
For sure.
There's no.
I mean,
now, Eli, here's the thing.
Depends on really, how far. I don't know.
Now, here's the thing, Eli. If JSN was on another team, not the Seahawks, because listen, the Seahawks have DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, so it shrinks his targets. If he was on I don't know, if he was on the Jaguars, he'd be their number one receiver. He'd get way more targets and way more yards. So he's great, but he's not MVP. I do think it's Josh Allen. It could be Lamar, maybe. I don't really know. But Josh Allen is. The thing with Josh Allen is that he's not turning the ball over this year. That's the big thing with him. But absolutely. Yeah, Eli, I've done enough talking. Bills had a great win here, and we'll see if they can keep it going. I'm sure we'll see it again in the playoffs. So we'll see if the Bills can finally get over that hump.
All right, the next game on this list, the Bengals lose to the Chargers, 34-27. Another Bengals loss. Yikes! That's all I can say. The Chargers, big victory for them.
Wow, the Bengals really fooled us, coming back down 21 and lose the game anyways. Man, Eli, I'm going to just go ahead and read Joe Burrow's stat line for you from last week. I hope you finally understand that he's not the problem. So in this game against the Chargers, Joe Burrow went 28-50 for 356 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. I think you understand now, right, Eli? This is the Bengals defense. That's their problem. I mean, they give up another week of them giving up 30-plus points. It's ridiculous. I can't believe the Bengals actually give up this many points. This is the third time in the last 4 weeks they've given up more than 30 points on defense. That's not a winning formula, Eli. But hey, Eli, the Chargers, man, 7-3. They don't really have the flashy players. They don't have these elite receivers or these star running backs, but they just win football games. That's what's so much fun about what Jim Harbaugh has done there. Justin Herbert finally is in a functional offense, Eli, and the Chargers are going places this year. I don't know how far they're going to get in the playoffs, Eli, but I'm excited. I hope they do get into the playoffs. So I want to see how this Chargers team stacks up with other contenders. And their game against the Ravens next week is going to be so much fun. Battle of the Harbaughs.
It's going to be an epic game, and I can't wait to see that on Monday Night Football. That'll be super exciting, and, of course, they'll be there. All right, the next and final game on the list. How about the Cowboys? They lose to the Texans 34-10, and the sky is falling. The roof metal pieces fell down. I mean, God, wow. The luck is just getting worse and worse for this team. I mean, wow. It's just funny at this point. It really is, and that's how much more I can say there.
It's a joke. Well, Eli, the Cowboys are tanking. I think they made that very clear. Mike McCarthy will be gone after the season. Shoot, I don't even know what's going to happen with this team, Eli, but they are just embarrassing themselves out there, Eli. And they still have 2 more primetime games this year, Eli. Let's all hope that they get flexed out of them. I mean, and so they play the Bengals in 3 weeks on Monday night. That should definitely get flexed out. I don't want to see either of those teams in primetime.
Bengals and Cowboys will remain on Monday Night Football. And that was announced this week. And the reason why is because
the Simpsons.
They gave them the Simpsons broadcast. And because of that, we are stuck watching Cowboys-Bengals on Monday night. Regardless of how bad that game is, it cannot be flexed.
Well, I'll be going to bed early that night. Thank you very much. Yeah.
All right, then. Let's wrap it up.
Yep, that's right. Well, we making our Thursday game.
Thursday Night Football game, 8:15 p.m. on Prime Video. The Steelers-Browns. Steelers are 3.5 favorite. So, make it short and sweet. For my Survivor pick of the week, give me the Pittsburgh Steelers 24-18.
Well, I think it's risky picking a survivor in an AFC North game. This is one of the most competitive divisions in the league. I usually stay away from that, and I am going listen. I'm picking the Steelers. I'm not picking the Browns, but I have the Steelers only winning by 6. I have 23-17. Steelers coming out on top. I mean, hey, the Browns beat the Ravens a couple weeks back. It's just something about these AFC North games. They just are super, super competitive every time. And I'm actually interested to see how Jameis Winston looks on primetime, but there's no question, Eli. This is going to be the Steelers win. And if the Steelers win, Eli, guess who gets another winning season under his belt?
That will do it for the 12th Horseshoe Podcast Week 11 recap. We hope you join us on Friday at 7 o'clock for our picks. And I know the answer. That's why I'm not saying it.
Mike Tomlin. That's right.
I thought you were going to say somebody else.
No. Why would I? Russell Wilson hasn't started enough games for that.
Okay. All right, then.
Yeah, Mike Tomlin, greatest coach of all time.
Jack, Rizzo, Elijah, see you Friday at 7 o'clock. Good night.
Good night, guys.